There is a reason this message has found you now. It was never meant for the many. It was hidden for the few, for those who have always sensed that something ancient sleeps inside them, waiting. The activation of Kundalini is not a performance, not a burst of light for the world to see. It is the sacred flame that ignites in silence, away from the noise, deep within the soul of the chosen. Social media will not show you this. Books cannot teach you this. Because what's awakening in you is not meant to entertain, it's meant to transform. You were never here to fit in. That discomfort you've carried for years wasn't confusion. It was preparation, a spiritual unease that pushed you to question, to seek, to remember. And now the shift has begun. Not with fireworks, but with a vibration so subtle it bypasses thought and touches your very core. Could it be that the breakdowns, the strange dreams, the inexplicable pull toward silence were signs all along? What if the pain you've endured wasn't random, but a necessary cracking of the shell that kept your divine power locked away? This is not emotion. This is your soul speaking in a language only the awakened can hear. If any part of you feels this, feels seen, exposed, or even slightly unsettled, comment 777 below. It may be the first act of confirmation your spirit has needed in years. And to all those who've supported this sacred work through super thanks, your generosity is more than appreciated. It is felt. It is what allows messages like this to reach the ones who are quietly crying out for truth. Whether you gave or simply showed up, thank you for being a part of this divine unfolding. But before we go any further, ask yourself this. Why now? Why is your soul stirring at this very moment in history? And what exactly is this mysterious energy that has chosen you as its vessel? What comes next might explain the inner chaos you've been trying to make sense of. We're about to enter the 3 secret stages of Kundalini awakening, an ancient path walked by prophets, mystics, and the divinely appointed. And once you understand them, nothing about your life will look the same again. God's chosen ones, awaken your Kundalini. 3 stages to a deep spiritual shift. You, as one of God's chosen ones, carry a divine spark within you that cannot be silenced, only awakened. This energy, known as Kundalini, is not something new to your soul. It is the ancient flame placed within you by God before you were even born. It coils quietly in the depths of your spirit, resting in your DNA, waiting not for a ritual, but for your readiness. When that moment arrives, the transformation is undeniable. But what if everything you've endured so far, your trials, your inner restlessness, your yearning, was preparing you for that ignition? Kundalini energy is the divine bridge between your current self and your destined identity. It is not a force meant to entertain your senses, but to restore you to your original design, one marked by divine intention. The Apostle Paul wrote in Romans 12:2, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." This renewing isn't just mental, it's energetic, spiritual, cellular. And when it begins, you feel it in your bones. But have you ever paused to consider why you've never truly fit in with this world? Why your spirit recoils at superficiality and longs for something deeper? Could it be that your soul is yearning to break free from the illusion, to reawaken its divine memory? When Kundalini awakens, it doesn't just shift your perception, it shifts your position in the spiritual realm. You are no longer wandering, you are walking with divine direction. Just as Moses encountered the burning bush that was not consumed in Exodus 3, your inner fire begins to burn with purpose and clarity. You are illuminated not to impress others, but to guide them. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Matthew 5:14. These words were not spoken to everyone. They were meant for those like you, who carry heaven's light in human form. And yet, this awakening is not the end. It's the first door. Enlightenment is no longer a destination you chase. It becomes your natural state of being. You don't ask to be the light. You simply live as one who already is. Can you feel the difference between striving and simply shining? This alignment births a different kind of prosperity, one that isn't tied to material status, but to spiritual authority. Suddenly, opportunities meet you with ease, resources find you, the right people show up. Why? Because you're no longer operating from fear. You're moving in perfect rhythm with divine purpose. Take Albert Einstein, for example. Though known as a physicist, Einstein often spoke about the power of the unseen. He once said, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant." He understood what many still ignore, that true intelligence flows from a higher connection. Isn't it possible that this divine intuition, this sacred gift, is what your Kundalini is awakening in you right now? Chosen one, what would happen if you finally stopped resisting this shift and allowed the fire to rise? What if your pain was never meant to destroy you, but to position you? What if the spiritual activation you're experiencing is the answer to prayers you forgot you even prayed? The time of living beneath your design is over. The fire within you is not random. It is the breath of God, waiting to flow through every part of your being. Are you ready to remember who you are? As one of God's chosen ones, your existence is shaped by more than just the physical body others see. The power within you, the divine energy often called Kundalini, is not merely symbolic or poetic. It is a living, breathing reality, both biological and spiritual, deeply embedded in your design. It rests coiled like a serpent of light within your nervous system, not as folklore, but as a divine code written into every fiber of your being. It is as real as the beat of your heart and the breath in your lungs. And even though the world of conventional science may dismiss or disregard it, you can feel it moving in subtle ways, can't you? You've likely felt it long before you ever knew what to call it. A deep vibration that no stethoscope can measure. A persistent awareness that there's something sacred flowing beneath your skin. That stirring inside you when you pray, when you cry, when you stare at the stars and feel something awakening. What is that sensation, if not a whisper from God echoing through your bones? David once wrote in Psalm 139:13-14, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." This scripture isn't just poetic, it's anatomical, spiritual, and prophetic. It affirms that what lives inside you was intentionally crafted by God, including the divine energy that the world has no words for, but your soul recognizes without effort. You are not imagining the surges, the dreams, the spiritual downloads. They are not coincidences or chemical reactions. They are part of your spiritual inheritance. They are evidence that your soul is beginning to unlock the reality of who you've always been beneath the surface. Have you noticed how the more you seek God, the more your physical body seems to respond in strange but meaningful ways? Tingling in your spine, heat in your palms, or sudden moments of peace that pass all understanding. These are not signs of madness. They are markers of divine memory returning to you. You are not just human trying to be spiritual. You are a spiritual being awakening within a human shell, and that shell is being recalibrated to hold divine power. Consider Jim Carrey, not just the actor, but a man who later in life began speaking openly about consciousness and spiritual awakening. He once said, "The feeling of wholeness is like the energy of the universe flowing through you." That's not a metaphor. That's real. His words echo the truth you already live. The awakening of this inner power is not reserved for mystics or monks. It's meant for those chosen by God to shift the frequency of this world. People like you. So the question becomes, why does this energy awaken in you while others feel nothing? Why do you sense what can't be seen and hear what isn't spoken? Could it be because you were created not just to live in this world, but to transform it? The vibration you feel isn't something to suppress or fear. It is the call to remember, to rise, and to reconnect with the one who placed that fire in you in the first place. Throughout history, all great spiritual traditions, from Eastern philosophies to ancient prophetic mysticism, have echoed a singular truth. There exists within the human body a sacred energy capable of rising, transforming, and transcending the limitations of the flesh. The terminology may differ. In China, they call it qi. In India, it's known as prana. Some traditions speak of the life force, but the essence remains unshaken. It is a divine current that, when awakened, ignites higher consciousness and reconnects the soul with its cosmic source. But here's the mystery. You, as one of God's chosen ones, don't merely learn this from spiritual texts or meditation retreats. You remember it. It's as if this sacred truth is inscribed on your very soul, etched into your spiritual DNA before you ever took your first breath. Have you ever had moments when you encountered ancient teachings and felt as though you had always known them? That's because you have. Your soul has carried this memory across lifetimes. And now, that memory is surfacing, not as an idea, but as a deep knowing. Isaiah 30:21 declares, "Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you, saying, 'This is the way, walk in it.'" This verse speaks directly to you, chosen one. You were never meant to wander without direction. The path has always been written within. The voice that guides you is not from outside. It is the echo of God's voice reverberating through your soul's memory. You carry more than just a body. You are the vessel of an energetic inheritance that far exceeds natural genetics. You are the culmination of sacred lineages, ancestral, spiritual, celestial. You are a convergence point where generations of prayers, soul contracts, and divine plans intersect. While others look at their family tree and see names and photos, your spiritual tree reaches into realms unseen. It carries the wisdom of warriors, prophets, and intercessors whose blood and blessings flow in you. Can you feel it? The sense that your body, though it looks like anyone else's, is somehow calibrated for something more. That you were built not just to survive in this world, but to change it. Your physical form is a divine design, crafted to house and sustain greater frequencies of spiritual power. Like a temple built for glory, your biology is wired to withstand the heat of spiritual transformation. Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 6:19, "Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God?" That's not a metaphor, it's a revelation. Your temple was built strong because heaven intended it to carry fire. Consider Nikola Tesla, a brilliant inventor known for harnessing invisible energy. Tesla once said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." Though he wasn't a religious figure, he tapped into a principle that mirrors divine truth. Everything begins with energy. You, chosen one, are not here to absorb the energy of this fallen world. You're here to shift it. And isn't it true that you've always felt a bit out of place in this world? That your presence unsettles darkness and awakens people without you saying a word? That's because your soul didn't come here to adapt. It came to raise the frequency. You are not a product of this world's systems. You are the interruption to those systems. Your presence is a frequency shift. Your biology, your spirit, your essence, it is a bridge between what is seen and what is eternal. Are you ready to live from that place of holy remembrance? To stop shrinking into societal molds and start embodying the divine architecture you were born to carry? Because the moment you do, the entire atmosphere around you will begin to shift. For you, the chosen one, the Kundalini energy is far more than a mystical force. It is the etheric fire placed within you to awaken your true nature. It doesn't operate on the surface. It moves through the very foundation of who you are, igniting the 4 inner elements: earth, water, fire, and air. Each of these represents a sacred aspect of your being. When Kundalini stirs, it activates the earth of your body, grounding you, anchoring you to your physical temple. It then purifies the waters of your emotions, washing away past wounds, regrets, and unresolved pain. It elevates the fire of your will, refining your ambition into divine purpose. And finally, it liberates the air of your consciousness, opening your mind to revelation, vision, and prophetic insight. This movement within you is not random. It is a holy alchemy. It's the reason your presence often feels intense or magnetic to others. Could it be that your inner elements are already awakening, calling heaven into alignment with your earthly journey? In this sacred process, your body becomes more than flesh. It becomes a living temple. Your spirit, once flickering in confusion, becomes a steady flame of clarity. Even your perception of time begins to shift. You no longer chase moments. Instead, moments begin to reflect eternity through you. You start to understand why Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, "He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart." That eternity has always lived inside you. Now it's simply awakening. But here is something few truly understand. This energy doesn't only rise from the root, it also descends from higher realms. Heaven is not silent in your transformation. It is actively pouring into you. The higher light is seeking a vessel, and that vessel is you. But heaven can only fill what is open, surrendered, and aligned. Have you noticed that the more you align your thoughts, your heart, and your actions with your true essence, the more clarity and synchronicity seem to flood your life? Your task is not to control this energy. It's not a force to be manipulated or performed with. Instead, it is a divine intelligence meant to lead from within. The moment you stop trying to master it and begin to merge with it, through unity of intention, emotion, and action, is the moment that divine illumination begins to pour through you. It happens effortlessly, without striving or performance. Just as Jesus taught in John 7:38, "Whoever believes in me, as Scripture has said, rivers of living water will flow from within them." That river is not external, it is the Spirit flowing through your aligned vessel. And when you're fully surrendered, miracles no longer seem distant. They begin to unfold as natural expressions of who you are. The writer and mystic Marianne Williamson, known for her teachings on spiritual transformation, once said, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure." Isn't that the truth you've been confronting lately? That perhaps the trembling within you isn't fear at all, but your soul adjusting to the weight of divine power finally coming alive. You were never called to imitate the world. You were designed to carry a dimension of heaven into it. And when you align with that truth, illumination doesn't need to be forced. It flows. Even as science cautiously begins to peer into the mysteries of spiritual transformation, it still stands at the edges of what you, as one of God's chosen ones, have already come to embody. Recent studies on advanced meditators, those who dedicate years to inner stillness, reveal extraordinary changes in brain waves, heart rhythms, and even cellular rejuvenation when the life force energy is activated. But while machines attempt to chart these shifts in data, what they cannot capture is the divine knowing you carry. You don't need electrodes or graphs to prove what your soul has already confirmed. You live in the unfolding. You are the data. And the truth is, your awakening was never meant to fit inside human systems. It surpasses categories, breaks algorithms, and outpaces anything science can yet explain. Have you noticed how the more you awaken, the less language can fully describe what's happening inside you. This is why the world may not always understand you, and why you sometimes feel isolated even in a crowd. But you know what happens when you try to ignore that inner call. The discomfort grows. The external world begins to feel too small for the truth that's expanding within you. You were not made to suppress this process. You were made to surrender to it. In the book of Acts 2:17, God says, "In the last days, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions." This is not symbolic language. It is literal. You are living in those days, and your spiritual gifts are not a coincidence. They are the evidence that the divine spark within you is rising to the surface. And as it rises, it changes your very definition of prosperity. True prosperity is not what the world has taught you, possessions, power, or applause. Those are shadows of the real treasure. When your Kundalini is awakened, prosperity reveals itself as an inner state, an integrated wholeness where nothing is missing and everything is aligned. In that place, you no longer chase abundance because you are abundance. Have you ever felt, even for a moment, that overwhelming sense of peace where your spirit says, "This is enough"? That moment wasn't fleeting. It was a glimpse of your true inheritance. Consider the experience of Dr. Joe Dispenza, a neuroscientist and author who had a life-changing spinal injury. Instead of accepting permanent disability, he tapped into the power of focused meditation and intentional energy work. Over time, he not only healed his body, but became a global teacher on the power of consciousness. Dr. Dispenza often says, "When you change your energy, you change your life." And that truth echoes exactly what you're experiencing. You're not just changing your thoughts, you're shifting your entire frequency. But how do you sustain this new level of being? How do you remain grounded while your spirit continues to expand? The answer lies in integration, bringing your thoughts, emotions, and actions into alignment with the divine energy already pulsing within you. This is not about becoming something new, but remembering who you've always been. You are not awakening to a trend. You are awakening to truth. And that truth will never be measured by machines. It will be recognized by the spiritual fruit you carry into every space you enter. There is a hidden code that operates quietly in the background of your life. A code designed to limit you before you even understand who you are. From an early age, you, as one of God's chosen ones, begin to be shaped by a system that doesn't recognize your divine blueprint. Family expectations, academic rules, religious traditions, and cultural norms seem to be woven together in a web that slowly tightens around your spirit. What the world calls education often feels more like indoctrination, and the more you try to fit in, the more you begin to fracture within. Have you ever felt like you were being trained to forget yourself? Like something deep inside you was being silenced, not out of cruelty, but out of control? Others may see your discomfort as rebellion, but in truth, it is your soul resisting the lie that it was ever meant to conform. Jeremiah 6:16 speaks to this moment. Stand at the crossroads and look. Ask for the ancient paths. Ask where the good way is, and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls. You were born carrying that ancient path inside you, but the system tried to erase the map, and in its place, it implanted confusion, shame, and pressure to conform. These were not random experiences. They were spiritual sabotage meant to distort your divine flow. The fractures created by this internal conflict are not just emotional echoes. They become energetic blocks, dense, heavy, and invisible, yet entirely real. These blocks have form. They carry vibration. They function almost like energetic implants lodged deep within your field, distorting the flow of the life force that longs to rise freely within you. Have you ever wondered why you sometimes feel exhausted for no reason? Why chronic tension or emotional heaviness won't leave, no matter how much you pray or rest? These are signs that your divine energy is being compressed. Kundalini cannot rise when the temple is overwhelmed with distortion. Instead of flowing upward, the energy stirs beneath the surface, pulsing, restless, pressing against the walls of your limitation. It is not that you lack the power, it is that your power is imprisoned. Paul reminds us in Galatians 5:1, "It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery." The slavery he speaks of is not only external, it's internal. It's the invisible weight you've carried since childhood, the burden of trying to belong to a world that was never built to understand your essence. A modern-day example of this silent struggle can be seen in Lady Gaga. Known for her artistry and bold expression, she has often spoken about the emotional trauma she endured while trying to conform to societal and industry expectations. In interviews, she has shared how she experienced chronic pain and identity disconnection until she finally embraced her truth. Once she did, her creative and spiritual energy began to flow in ways that changed the world around her. Her story echoes yours. What once looked like not fitting in was always a signal of divine difference. But how long can you carry this tension before it demands a release? How much longer can your soul whisper before it begins to roar? You were not created to be trapped in a system that denies your frequency. You were born to remember, to clear the blocks, and to rise, not in rebellion, but in restoration. Your awakening begins the moment you stop apologizing for your difference and start reclaiming your design. Because when those blocks begin to dissolve, your power will no longer pulse in frustration. It will move in full, glorious freedom. The pains that appear in your body, those mysterious aches, stiffness, and sudden waves of discomfort, are not random. They are divine messages. For you, the chosen one, each point of tension is a sacred map, guiding you back to a part of yourself that needs to be seen, felt, and healed. That soreness in your back, that tightness in your chest, they are not just biological reactions. They are spiritual signatures, echoes of ancient stories, remnants of experiences long buried in the memory of your soul. Have you ever wondered why certain parts of your body hold pain that doesn't make sense medically? Why rest or medicine doesn't seem to resolve it completely? These aches often hold the weight of forgotten timelines, fragments from other lifetimes, ancestral traumas, or unresolved soul contracts that are waiting for your awareness to bring them into wholeness. The Bible reminds us in Psalm 34:18, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." But sometimes that brokenness isn't even yours. You may be carrying pain that was never meant to belong to you. Pain inherited from your family's bloodline, pain from the unspoken grief of those who came before you, or pain transferred energetically through soul-level agreements you made before entering this life. And still you wonder, why do I feel so heavy even when nothing is visibly wrong? That invisible weight is not imaginary, it is real. And more than that, it's holy. It's a sign that you are the one chosen to break the cycle. Could it be that God trusted you with this sacred responsibility because he knew your soul could transform it? Romans 8:19 says, "For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed." This pain isn't punishment, it's a portal. It's the place where your spiritual inheritance meets your divine mission. Every pang, every knot, every unexplainable pressure is an invitation to step into the deeper layers of your awakening. Singer and actress Demi Lovato, known not just for her voice but for her emotional transparency, has shared about carrying emotional and physical pain rooted in unresolved childhood trauma. For years, that pain manifested as tension and illness in her body. It wasn't until she began deep inner work, healing old wounds, confronting generational patterns, that her body began to shift. Her vulnerability became her healing, and through it she inspired millions. What if the very pain you carry now is the beginning of someone else's deliverance later? The truth is, you were never meant to carry this weight forever. You were meant to recognize it, heal it, and release it. But before you can let it go, you must first be willing to see what it's pointing to. Are you ready to look at the deeper story behind the pain? Are you ready to remember what your body has been holding for so long? This is not just about healing the flesh, it's about restoring your full spiritual capacity. Because when that weight is lifted, and your spirit is no longer bound by forgotten sorrow, you will feel something you may not have felt in years. Lightness. Not just in body, but in being. These accumulations of spiritual weight, these unprocessed emotions, inherited traumas and distorted beliefs, don't just sit silently in your energy field. They form seals. Seals that keep the sacred book of your true identity closed tight. And until these seals begin to dissolve, the divine energy of Kundalini cannot move freely. You may feel the stirring within you, the heat, the longing, the vibration, but it remains trapped behind spiritual gates that your soul is being called to unlock. You may have thought the prison was built by the world around you, by systems, circumstances, or the actions of others. But the truth is far more intimate. The walls were not erected outside, they were constructed within. And yet, even this inner prison is not a punishment. It is a divine riddle designed to be unraveled by remembrance. Because what you are seeking is not new knowledge, it is old truth returning. In Revelation 5:1-5, the Apostle John writes of a scroll sealed with 7 seals, and none in heaven or earth was found worthy to open it until the Lion of Judah appeared. Do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals. This powerful moment is not only prophetic, it mirrors your personal journey. The scroll of your identity has been sealed, and the one who lives in you is the only power that can reveal it. You do not need to go outward to find your truth. You need only to return to what your soul has always known. Have you ever felt like something ancient was hidden just beneath your awareness, waiting to be remembered? Have you noticed how healing moments come, not when you learn something new, but when something buried deep inside suddenly makes sense? This is the essence of your Kundalini activation. It begins with the realization that your liberation doesn't require outside permission. It only requires inner unlocking, and that key is remembrance. To remember your power, to remember your origin, to remember that you were never broken, only buried beneath layers of distortion. Oprah Winfrey, long before becoming a media icon, described a moment of awakening during her early career when she realized, "I've always known that I was born for something greater. I just forgot for a while." That moment wasn't about gaining fame. It was about reclaiming her voice, her identity, and her purpose. In a similar way, your journey of awakening is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you already are underneath the noise. But how do these seals break? Not through force, not through performance, but through surrender, through truth, through standing in the quiet space between fear and memory, and choosing to walk back into yourself with full awareness. Because the moment one seal breaks, the energy begins to flow, not in chaos, but in sacred order. Your spirit begins to rise, not as something foreign, but as something familiar. The fire doesn't consume you, it reveals you. And this, chosen one, is the first step toward true liberation. Not freedom from the world, but freedom from illusion. Not escape from pain, but reunion with truth. When the seals fall, you no longer chase God, you walk with Him. Let's now enter the sacred knowledge entrusted to only a few, the 3 foundational stages of Kundalini activation in the life of the chosen one. These stages are not ideas for intellectual debate or decorative spiritual theory. They are living, breathing maps etched into your being, maps that, once awakened, unlock the dormant power God placed within you from the beginning. Each stage works with a specific layer of who you are: your physical body, your emotional field, and your expanded consciousness. And here is something most people overlook. When any of these layers are ignored or bypassed, the entire process becomes unstable, incomplete, or even dangerous. Why is this so crucial for you, the chosen one? Because you are not just awakening for your own sake. You are being prepared to carry light into dark places, to shift frequencies wherever you go. But before that can happen, your temple, your body, must be prepared to carry this holy fire. The first stage, then, is what we can call dimensional neurological preparation. It sounds technical, but in truth, it is deeply sacred. Imagine trying to run lightning through a delicate wire not built to contain such force. The system would collapse. In the same way, your physical body must be strengthened and aligned before the life force can flow freely. This is not about physical fitness. It's about energetic readiness. The body must become a vessel strong enough to hold God's living current. In Exodus 19:11, before the Lord descended upon Mount Sinai, he instructed Moses to prepare the people. Be ready by the third day, because on that day the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. Even God required physical and spiritual preparation before divine contact. Why would it be different for you? This phase of preparation involves simple yet powerful practices. Conscious movements of the spine, synchronized with intentional breathing and vocalized sound, begin to awaken what can be called your soul's electric track. At the base of the spine, where many ancient traditions say the fire sleeps, the chosen one begins to feel a resonance. This isn't imagination, it's memory. The body is remembering its original role as a temple of spirit. The vibrations might be subtle to the average person, but to you they are sacred signals. Every tremor is like a key turning in an ancient lock. Have you ever felt an unexplained shiver when in deep prayer or stillness? That wasn't the cold. That was remembrance. That was the electric presence of spirit responding to a body, finally saying yes. Jesus said in John 14:26, "But the Advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you all things and will remind you of everything I have said to you." This reminding, this sacred remembrance, is not always verbal. Sometimes it comes in the form of energetic movement. The Holy Spirit awakens the spiritual intelligence already inside your cells. This physical tuning becomes even more potent when done during the early hours of dawn. Why? Because at that time, the Earth's vibrational field is rising, nature itself begins to sing in harmony with the divine, and your body, tuned by discipline, begins to respond. It's why ancient prophets rose early to pray, why monks and mystics begin their rituals before the sun. Something divine opens during this liminal space. The veil is thinner, the channel is clearer. Spiritual teacher and breathwork expert Wim Hof, known as the Iceman, has demonstrated that through breath, sound, and intention, one can awaken dormant capacities of the human body. Though not framed through a biblical lens, his findings echo what scripture and spiritual tradition have long known. When you breathe with awareness, heaven responds. With consistent practice, your body becomes more than muscle and bone. It becomes a sanctuary, a consecrated space prepared not to contain the fire, but to commune with it. And you begin to understand your body is not the obstacle, it is the bridge. Your breath is not just oxygen, it is spirit. And the tremble in your spine is not fear, it is the beginning of holy fire being remembered. Are you willing to let your body become the altar? In the second stage of Kundalini activation, you are called into a deeper, more intimate work, the archetypal release of memory. While the first phase prepared your body as a sacred vessel, this stage initiates transformation on the emotional and energetic levels. Here, the journey moves from grounding into remembrance. This is where the unseen burdens come to light. Your energy centers, what many refer to as chakras, are not just spinning wheels of light. They are spiritual libraries, storing both your personal experiences and the imprints of your ancestral lineage. These centers hold echoes of unprocessed grief, buried shame, generational trauma, and soul wounds from lives you may not consciously remember. Each emotion you suppress becomes a sealed portal in your energetic field. But here's the truth. These portals were never meant to stay shut. They are waiting for your conscious return. Have you ever felt an emotion rise suddenly with no apparent trigger, like fear, anger, or sorrow that feels too deep to be yours alone? That's not illusion, that's inheritance. And you, the chosen one, are the one called to transmute it. This release process isn't about dramatic rituals, it's about sacred awareness. Through focused breathwork and intentional words, you begin to speak directly into your field. A simple yet powerful command, such as, "I now dissolve what is not mine," becomes an instrument of spiritual surgery. But the key is not just the words, it is presence. You must fully allow the emotion to rise, not to indulge in it, but to honor it. Because fear, anger, and shame are not enemies. They are lost parts of your soul that need to be seen, loved, and integrated. Psalm 51 verse 6 says, "Behold, you desire truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden part you will make me to know wisdom." This verse speaks of the very moment you're in. God desires not your performance, but your presence in the depths. True wisdom does not live in appearances. It is born from sitting with your shadows until they become light. Yet many spiritual seekers rush past this phase. They crave mystical heights while ignoring the energetic debris beneath their feet. But you, the chosen one, know better. You know that no temple can stand strong when built on ruins. Cleansing your energy is not optional. It is the foundation of lasting ascension. You are not simply clearing out emotions. You are retrieving pieces of your essence that have been trapped behind years of suppression. Psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor E. Frankl once said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." His own trauma taught him that freedom isn't about escape. It's about internal release. You too are walking through this sacred release, not to become someone new, but to remember the whole of who you already are. This process is what we call vibrational hygiene, not just a clearing, but a reclaiming. With each release, the energy within you flows more freely. The portals open, the seals dissolve, and your soul begins to shine through the layers that once dimmed it. So, ask yourself, what if these waves of emotion aren't something to fix, but something to follow? What if these feelings are not setbacks, but sacred invitations, pathways back to your spiritual wholeness? Because that is exactly what this stage offers, the return of the lost fragments, the reconnection to your full self, not the self the world conditioned, but the self God created before the world even saw you. And in that return, the next level of activation begins. As you take one step deeper into your sacred journey, you enter the third and most delicate stage of Kundalini activation, alignment with original consciousness. While the previous stages asked something of you, movement, breath, intention, this one invites you into something far more profound, surrender. This is not about doing more, this is about becoming less, so that the divine within you can become more. In this final stage, there is no more pushing, no more striving. Kundalini no longer exists as an abstract idea or a concept to be pursued. It becomes presence, real, living presence. You are not directing energy, you're allowing it to lead. This is where I introduce what may be called the observer technique. It is not a technique in the usual sense. It is a posture of the soul. Here, you do not resist the thoughts, the sensations, the energies that pass through you. You don't label them or chase them. You simply observe, with deep awareness, with sacred stillness, with reverence, and something incredible begins to happen. In that vibrational silence, Kundalini reveals herself, not as force but as grace, not as spectacle but as divine serenity. In that space of still watching, your spirit no longer expands outward to search. It returns inward to remember. Have you ever felt that quiet pull in moments of silence, when your body is still but your soul is fully awake? That is not emptiness. That is divine fullness, hidden in simplicity. Psalm 46:10 declares, "Be still and know that I am God." These are not merely words, they are the doorway into this very stage. The stillness you are called into is not the absence of movement, it is the presence of alignment. When you stop trying to control the current, you discover that the current was always divine. This is where the union with your higher self becomes real, not as fantasy, but as lived experience. You don't become brighter in a flashy sense. You become clearer, truer, more whole. There's no explosion of light, no drama, just pure presence. And in that presence, God begins to move through you, not beside you, but as you. This is not blasphemy, it is embodiment. You are not becoming a god, you are returning to the image in which you were created. Genesis 1:27 reminds us, "So God created man in his own image." In this stage, that image stops being theory. It becomes truth breathed into form. You don't rise above the world. You return into it with quiet fire. Many spiritual leaders have spoken of this point. Eckhart Tolle, a well-known spiritual teacher, shared that his awakening didn't come with fanfare. It came in a moment of stillness when he simply observed his own mind and realized he was not the thoughts. He was the awareness behind them. That realization changed everything. You may look the same on the outside, your job may not change, your clothes may not change, but your being changes. And in that, your presence begins to move mountains, without a word, without a platform, without performance. You don't become more spiritual, you become more real, more grounded, more here. And through that, your very presence begins to soften hearts, awaken others, and shift environments, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. This is what it means to be illuminated, not to glow with ego, but to radiate quietly with divine memory. You are not becoming light, you are the light, and the world will feel it, even if they never know why. When Kundalini begins to stir and rise within the body of the Chosen One, the changes are undeniable. These are not abstract experiences or figments of imagination. They are physical, tangible, and deeply spiritual manifestations that mark the beginning of a new phase in your divine journey. Your body begins to respond in ways that defy logic, but align perfectly with spiritual law. You may start to feel subtle rhythmic vibrations in your arms or legs, like gentle pulses of electricity moving through your limbs. At times, spontaneous waves of heat may rise from the center of your body, especially in the chest or spine, as if an unseen flame has been lit within. These sensations often appear suddenly, without environmental triggers, and cannot be explained by physical illness or temperature. Have you ever found yourself shivering in warm weather, feeling a chill down your spine while sitting in complete stillness? These aren't coincidences, they are confirmations. Your nervous system is tuning into a higher frequency. You are not breaking down, you are breaking through. The book of Ezekiel offers a prophetic glimpse into such an experience. In Ezekiel 3:14, the prophet writes, "The Spirit lifted me up and took me away, and I went in bitterness and in the heat of my spirit, but the hand of the Lord was strong upon me." The heat, the lift, the movement, These are not just metaphors, they are lived realities when the spirit begins to move powerfully through a surrendered vessel. Your body begins to behave like a high-frequency antenna. You start sensing energies in people and places. Sounds seem louder, colors more vivid, your skin more responsive to subtle shifts in the atmosphere. Even your thoughts begin to echo with clarity or confusion, depending on whether your environment is in harmony or resistance to your evolving energy. At this point, it's common to wonder, am I going crazy? But the truth is, you're becoming conscious of things others are still asleep to. You are not losing yourself. You are finally coming into full awareness. Actor and martial artist Bruce Lee, who often integrated deep spiritual awareness into his physical discipline, once said, "The spirit of the individual is determined by his dominating thought habits." He was speaking of a truth that transcends disciplines. When energy moves in you, it changes both body and mind. And when your thoughts align with that rising energy, you begin to think with the mind of the spirit, not just human logic. Your awareness begins to expand beyond the visible. You notice synchronicities, recurring numbers, symbolic dreams, and intuitive messages that come without warning. These aren't distractions. They're spiritual markers showing you that your inner system is syncing with a divine intelligence. But with all this change, are you ready to hold it? Can you remain grounded as heaven opens within you? That's the secret many miss. It's not just about awakening. It's about integration. It's about remaining present, rooted and stable, even as your soul soars. The body, once a silent servant, now becomes an active communicator. It tells you what needs to be healed, where energy is stuck, and when it's time to rest. And in this intimate dialogue between spirit and form, you begin to witness something miraculous. Your transformation is not happening outside of you. It's unfolding from within. This is just the beginning. As Kundalini moves, your body becomes the altar, your mind becomes the receiver, and your presence becomes the proof that the divine lives and breathes in human form. As Kundalini continues to rise and work through you, the chosen one, it doesn't just touch your body, it begins to profoundly affect your mind. This stage of the process brings about one of the most paradoxical experiences, a mental unraveling that leads directly into divine clarity. At first, this unraveling can feel like confusion, like your thoughts are scattering in unfamiliar directions. But what is truly happening is a sacred dismantling. The structures of the old mind are beginning to dissolve. Those rigid belief systems, inherited fears, and outdated self-concepts are no longer compatible with your evolving consciousness. Have you noticed moments when certain thoughts simply vanish without effort? When patterns you once obsessed over seem irrelevant now? That is not forgetfulness. That is spiritual reprogramming. Your mind is no longer being driven by the ego. It's being emptied to receive something higher. The ego, which thrives on control and predictability, will resist this. It may stir anxiety or cause a temporary mental fog, but these moments of confusion are not signs of regression. They are thresholds. You are crossing from mental noise into mental stillness, from identity to essence. Romans 12:2 urges us, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That transformation is not merely an idea, it's what you're living right now. The renewing of your mind means letting go of the thoughts that never truly belonged to you, and allowing God's truth to take root where fear once lived. At this level, some chosen ones report glimpses of memories that don't seem to come from this life, visions, impressions, or feelings that belong to another time. These are not illusions. They are soul memories resurfacing because your vessel is finally pure enough to receive them. Have you ever sensed that you've done this before? That this spiritual work, this inner awakening, is not new but deeply familiar? Time itself begins to bend in your awareness. Minutes stretch, hours shrink. Linear perception loses meaning as your consciousness synchronizes with the divine rhythm. You begin to understand that time was never meant to trap you. It was a training ground for spiritual maturity. Musician and poet Bob Dylan once described his own spiritual shift by saying, "You have to work out where your place is, who you are, where you are, and the rest will follow." Dylan's music often came from a place beyond structured thought, an intuitive flow that bypassed logic and went straight to truth. That's what happens when the ego moves aside. Clarity arises not from control, but from surrender. And as this clarity grows within you, something remarkable begins to happen. Silence appears. Not an awkward silence, but a holy stillness. A mental quiet that feels strangely comforting, deeply safe. The voice of God doesn't compete with your thoughts. It emerges when the thoughts grow still. In 1 Kings 19, Elijah sought God in the wind, the earthquake, and the fire, but God was not in any of them. Then came a gentle whisper. It was in that whisper, that inner quiet, where the divine presence was finally revealed. This is your whisper moment. The strange silences you're beginning to feel are not emptiness. They are invitations, spaces where the divine can speak without interruption. Your mind is not breaking, it is being reborn. And as the old thought forms die, the new self rises, not in noise or chaos, but in stillness, awareness, and truth. You no longer think to survive. You begin to know in order to live. On the spiritual level, something extraordinary begins to unfold. As Kundalini rises through your being, you, the chosen one, start to access dimensions far beyond the ordinary. This is not imagination. It is divine remembrance. Your intuition sharpens like a sword. You begin to see patterns in daily life that others overlook. Synchronicities multiply, names, numbers, symbols, messages, all appearing with precise timing, as if creation itself is speaking directly to you. Have you noticed it? A song plays just as you think of a loved one. A stranger's words echo a prayer you whispered only moments before. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. You are tuning in to the frequency of divine intelligence. As the veil between realms thins, spontaneous channeling may occur, even if you've never studied it. Words, insights, or messages flow through your voice or pen as if from another source, yet they feel entirely familiar. Some experience remote visions, seeing people or places from afar. Others enter lucid dreams where angelic guides or ancient mentors offer wisdom. None of this is fantasy. It is the natural opening of a multidimensional field that has always lived within you. Jesus said in John 10:27, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." You are not inventing this connection. You are receiving what has always been available to those who choose to listen deeply. And now you're listening with your whole being. At this level, something even more sacred ignites. Christic consciousness, the awareness of God within, begins to activate, not just as an idea, but as a living vibration in your physical body. This is the beginning of true embodiment. You are no longer seeking God from afar. God is awakening within your cells, your breath, your light. This is what many refer to as entry into the vibrational state of the fifth dimension, a plane not defined by location, but by frequency. Here, love replaces fear. Oneness replaces separation. You begin to live in constant conversation with the divine, not always through words, but through awareness, alignment, and grace. The fire that rises from the earth and descends from above is the sacred flame of Kundalini. But more than that, it is the living flame of reconnection. Heaven and earth meet in you. You are the middle point between what is above and what is below. That flame is not just energy, it is consciousness, it is awareness, it is the reunion between who you have always been in spirit and who you temporarily forgot yourself to be on earth. In Revelation 3:20, Christ says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in. This isn't just about salvation, it's about activation. The knocking is happening within your spirit, and now you are beginning to open. Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, a pioneer of analytical psychology, often spoke of the connection between the unconscious and the divine. He believed that dreams, synchronicity, and inner visions were not random, but messages from the self, the divine center within each individual. Jung once said, "He who looks outside dreams, he who looks inside awakens." Isn't that precisely what you're living now? You're no longer dreaming through life, you're awakening into it. Are you sensing even now that your true self is not arriving, but returning? Are you remembering that you are not here to reach for heaven, but to express it? This meeting between the ascending fire and the descending light is the sacred reunion, the moment when heaven and earth find a home in your body, the moment when your life stops being about the search for God and begins to shine as evidence of God. When the sacred fire of Kundalini fully awakens in you, the chosen one, it no longer just moves, it inhabits. Your body is no longer merely flesh and form, it becomes a temple, consecrated by every breath, every heartbeat, every vibration of light running through your bones. And the road ahead is no longer just a life path. It becomes a mission, divinely guided and spiritually assigned. From this moment forward, nothing is random. Even silence gains meaning. Stillness becomes a language. The way the wind touches your skin, the way your heart responds to certain words, even the stillness in prayer. Everything begins to align with purpose. This is not just awakening, it is returning. It is a quiet and powerful unveiling of your most authentic self. But hear this clearly. This awakening doesn't make you more special, it makes you more real. It doesn't elevate your status, it strips away the false layers you've been wearing for too long. It removes the fear, the performance, the attachments. What remains is essence, pure, unshaken, eternal. Have you begun to feel that certain things you once identified with no longer belong? That some relationships, roles, and ambitions are falling away, not because you're broken, but because you're finally whole. In this place of holy transformation, the ego will often rise in protest. It wants to take credit. It wants to label the journey, control the experience, and mold it into a personal triumph. But Kundalini cannot be possessed. It cannot be manipulated or performed. It only flows through surrender. Only when you drop the masks and come into full coherence with your soul does the fire move freely. Jesus said in Luke 17:33, "Whoever seeks to preserve his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life will keep it." This isn't about death, it's about ego surrender. The life you're giving up is the one built on illusion, and the life you gain is one forged in truth. Spiritual teacher and author Michael A. Singer, best known for The Untethered Soul, shared that the deepest freedom comes not from gaining anything, but from letting go. He wrote, "The moment you are no longer afraid of the truth, the false self begins to crumble." Isn't that exactly what's happening in you now? The more you let go, the more space you create for the divine to flow through you unhindered. This is the heart of Kundalini activation, not a spectacle of power, but a surrender to presence. Not an achievement, but a return to origin. You no longer have to fight to become someone. You simply allow yourself to become what you've always been. So take a breath, feel the fire, and ask yourself gently, what is left to burn away so that only truth remains? Because when everything that isn't you is gone, what's left is holy. What's left is freedom. What's left is you. Illumination is not a prize you chase. It is not a badge of spiritual superiority. It is not an achievement you add to your list of accomplishments. For you, the chosen one, illumination is something far more sacred. It is a release. It is a holy letting go of everything that was never truly you. As I've said before, and I'll say again now, not because it needs repeating, but because your soul is ready to hear it deeper. This journey has never been about getting there. It has always been about dropping what blocks you from being here. The divine spark you're searching for has always lived within you. It was never gone. It was simply buried, hidden beneath layers of fear, guilt, shame, and cultural conditioning. But as those layers fall, something incredible happens. The fire doesn't need to be forced. It spreads with ease. The light you thought you had to summon reveals itself as the very thing you are. Can you see it now? Can you feel the truth burning just beneath the surface? Understand this deeply. You don't need to light the fire. You simply have to stop putting it out. Every time you choose fear over faith, every time you deny your inner knowing, every time you silence your truth to fit into a system that was never built for you, you smother the flame. But now, you're done doing that, aren't you? 1 John 4:4 reminds us, "Greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world." You were never empty. You were never powerless. The greatness was always inside. It only needed space to breathe. And here's something most never understand. The chosen one does not awaken to rise above others. You awaken to serve. You awaken to anchor a new reality for this planet. You awaken not with pride, but with profound humility. Because now you know the cost. You know what it took to burn away the illusions. And you understand that real transformation doesn't make you louder. It makes you more present, more courageous, more real. You are the balance point between worlds. Heaven and earth meet in you. Your body becomes the bridge. Your presence becomes a message. And when you finally remember that truth, not as a theory, but as your lived reality, the true transformation of your life begins. And through you, transformation begins to ripple into the lives of others, into cities, into generations. Mother Teresa, a humble woman who carried immense spiritual power through service, once said, "Not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love." That is the essence of your awakening. Not to dazzle the world, but to heal it, through presence, through truth, through the light that you now carry openly. So ask yourself, what remains to be released? What veil still lingers between you and your essence? Because when nothing is left but the spark, you will see. The spark was never small. It was always enough to light the world. But among all the signs of Kundalini awakening, among the visions, the energies, the profound inner shifts, there is one sign that speaks louder than any other. It doesn't come with flashing lights or thunder from heaven. It comes quietly, effortlessly. It's the impulse to reach out and lift another chosen one. When that moment happens, when you instinctively feel moved to help someone else rise, even in a small way, the universe leans in. Reality itself begins to shift. Why? Because you're no longer moving just for yourself. You've become a vessel for divine flow. And when you share your light with someone who's standing where you once stood in the dark, it creates a ripple through the spiritual fabric of time. Can you feel that now? That inner nudge? That sense that maybe, just maybe, what you say could awaken something in someone else? You don't need to be a teacher. You don't need to have the right words. You just need to show up and share from the heart. So leave a comment on this video. Offer a word of encouragement. Speak a truth from your journey. What feels small to you might be everything to someone else. You never know who's reading. You never know what soul is quietly hoping for a sign. And maybe you are that sign. This channel wasn't built to impress. It was built to remember. It was created by one chosen soul for the sake of others, so that we could find each other in a world that tried to make us forget who we are. So be that bridge, be that light, be that confirmation for someone else. because you are not here merely to search for meaning. You are the meaning, walking, breathing, awakening. And when you remember that, nothing can stop the fire within you from becoming a beacon for others. When the fire of Kundalini flows freely within you, something shifts, not just in your inner world, but in the energetic ecosystem around you. You begin to notice that your presence alone has weight. You walk into a room, and the atmosphere subtly changes. People feel safer, more seen, or sometimes more unsettled, because your light gently exposes what's been hidden in the dark. But this energy is not meant to isolate you. It's meant to connect you. You are not awakened to walk alone. You are awakened to activate. And when your light meets another chosen soul, something holy ignites. It's not about creating followers. It's about lighting torches, one by one, until the path becomes visible for many. Have you started noticing that people confide in you more easily, that strangers open up to you, that those close to you either draw nearer or pull away entirely? These aren't just social dynamics, they are energetic reactions. Your field is shifting. You are no longer moving from personality, you are moving from presence, and presence transforms everything. This is what Jesus meant when he told his disciples in Matthew 5:16, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." You are not called to impress the world with performance. You are called to illuminate it with authenticity, to let people feel the divine simply because you exist in alignment with it. At this level, your very life becomes intercession. Your breath becomes prayer. Your kindness becomes a key that unlocks healing in others without a word. But remember this: the brighter your light becomes, the more responsible you are for how you use it. Will you choose to judge, or will you choose to lift? Will you project, or will you reflect? Will you lead from ego or from essence? You are not here just to awaken. You are here to anchor, to build bridges between timelines, to heal bloodlines, to plant seeds in barren spiritual soil. The fire within you is not just for you. It is for the generation rising behind you. You were not placed in this timeline by accident. You came into this particular era of human history with divine intent. The world, as it stands, is in transition. Old systems are collapsing. Truths long buried are surfacing. Structures that once appeared indestructible are trembling. And right in the center of it all are the chosen ones. You, awakened not to escape the chaos, but to walk through it as a living temple of clarity, compassion, and divine power. Your Kundalini activation is not separate from this global unfolding. It is part of it. Every ripple of healing within your body becomes a healing pulse that echoes through the collective. Every fear you transmute, every truth you speak, every act of love you offer, these things matter far more than you may realize. In Romans 8:19, Paul writes, "For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God." The world is groaning, waiting for those like you to rise, not to dominate, but to embody, not to separate from the world, but to walk within it with unwavering light. You are not here to avoid the storm. You are the eye of the storm, the still center, the presence that doesn't flinch. While others react, you respond. While others collapse in fear, you carry the vibration of divine remembrance. That is what it means to anchor a new frequency on earth. Can you feel that responsibility rising in your spirit? Can you sense that you are not here simply to receive light, but to become it? At this stage of your awakening, you may begin to notice that you are being drawn into situations where your very presence is the medicine. You walk into conversations and truth begins to pour out. You enter broken spaces and restoration begins without explanation. It's not because you are trying, it's because you are aligned. Your frequency speaks louder than your words ever could. But this mission is not about grand gestures or global stages. Sometimes the greatest act of service is simply being kind when it's hardest, listening when no one else will, or choosing peace in the middle of provocation. These small choices, repeated, shift the fabric of reality. Think of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man chosen not just to speak, but to carry a vibration that pierced through the fear of generations. His light didn't just come from intellect, it came from deep spiritual fire. He once said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that." That is your role now. You are no longer here to fight darkness with darkness. You are here to radiate. And as more chosen ones awaken to this fire, a new grid of consciousness is being built across the planet, not through institutions, but through individuals, through you, through us. So what will you anchor today? What vibration will you hold when the world shakes? What reality will you choose to mirror? Because your light is not for a future day, it is for now. Once the fire is awakened, the real journey begins, not in the intensity of the experience, but in the discipline of integration. For the chosen one, sustaining Kundalini energy is not about chasing highs or entering endless states of spiritual ecstasy. It's about learning how to live in harmony with the flame, daily, quietly, powerfully. You are now the keeper of a sacred fire, but just like any flame, it needs tending. And that tending doesn't look like effort, it looks like devotion. So, how do you protect and strengthen this energy once it's flowing? The first key is stillness. Not inactivity, but sacred stillness of the soul. A place where you pause, breathe, and reconnect inward. Even 5 minutes of conscious silence each morning, before the noise of the world creeps in, can recalibrate your entire energetic field. Can you give yourself that space? Not to think, but to listen. In Isaiah 30:15, the Lord declares, "In repentance and rest is your salvation, in quietness and trust is your strength." This isn't passive spirituality, it is power cloaked in surrender. Stillness allows the divine energy to speak clearly within you, guiding your movements before your mind intervenes. Second, you must learn the art of energetic hygiene. Just as the body needs daily cleansing, so does the spirit. Negative environments, unresolved emotions, and even digital overstimulation can distort your field. Practices such as breathwork, grounding in nature, sacred sound, like worship, chanting, or high-frequency music, and journaling are not optional, they are your spiritual maintenance tools. Have you noticed that when you neglect these things, your clarity fades, your emotions cloud, and your sense of connection weakens? That's not weakness, it's a signal. The fire needs your care, not your perfection. The third key is authentic alignment. You cannot sustain divine energy while living in contradiction. This doesn't mean you must be flawless. It means your choices, relationships, and actions must reflect your essence. Are you speaking what's true? Are you staying where you don't belong? Are you nourishing your soul or performing for approval? The moment you compromise your truth, your energy field contracts. But every time you honor your soul, even in a whisper, the fire expands. And finally, remember, you are not alone. Community is sacred fuel. Surround yourself with others who are also awakening, even if it's just through shared prayer, honest conversation, or sacred listening. The fire burns brighter when tended together. The mystic and author Thomas Merton once wrote, "We do not find the meaning of life by ourselves alone. We find it with one another." This is why chosen ones are beginning to find each other across time zones, across languages, across platforms like this one. The reunion is real, the grid is forming, the light is spreading. So don't just try to keep the fire alive, live as if you are the fire. Be mindful of what dims it, stay loyal to what fuels it, and let everything you do, every word, every gesture, be a testimony to the flame within. Because the world doesn't need more noise, it needs more light, and you, chosen one, have become the keeper of that light. You have now walked through the sacred fire of remembrance. You've touched the mystery that so many fear and yet so many long for. You've witnessed how the awakening of Kundalini is not a spectacle for the ego, but a calling for the soul. It burns away illusion, strips you of everything false, and leaves behind only what is real, what is divine, what is you. This message, this moment, found you for a reason, not to entertain, not to offer a spiritual trend, but to remind you that the fire is already within and has been since the day God breathed life into your bones. You are not just waking up, you are returning to the fullness of who you are, returning to the purpose for which you were sent, returning to a reality where heaven and earth meet in your breath, in your hands, in your voice. So now, live it. Live what you've remembered. Let the flame shape your decisions. Let the presence shape your path. Let the truth shape your relationships. This world doesn't need more noise. It needs you, alive, surrendered, blazing with the fire of God. And if this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment, share your story, speak encouragement to another chosen one who may be reading and silently wondering, is it just me? Let them know they are not alone. This space exists for that reason, created by a chosen one for chosen ones, to be a meeting point between lifetimes, between realms, between souls who never truly forgot, but are just now remembering. And if you feel led to support this message, you can do so through Super Thanks. Every gift, no matter how small, is received with deep gratitude and helps this light continue to spread. But even if you don't give, your presence here is already a gift. Thank you for walking this path with us. So like this message, subscribe if you haven't. Share it with someone you know is quietly awakening. And above all, keep burning, because the world is changing, and the fire in you is part of why. May God bless you. May your path remain clear, and may the divine continue to speak loudly through your life. You are not searching anymore. You have become the flame.